Woo! Welcome back to the truth behind TV shows. I hope you guys have enjoyed the playlist. And if you haven't, didn't know there's a playlist, we have a playlist for it. If you like to know the truth behind TV shows, here's another one for you 80 babies. Knight Rider. Yeah. You remember Knight Rider from the 80s? You had a great childhood. You had racing sets that raced up the walls, and you had Knight Rider. Michael Knight. Dun, 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 Michael Knight. I'm like, man, just the intro, probably the best intro for a television show in history. In history, there's never been a cooler intro. Having that car come out. Pontiac hadn't even released that car, by the way. That was the new Pontiac Trans Am that was coming out, and it wasn't even released. And everybody was like, man, because the Firebird was that big selling car. So now they were coming out with the Trans Am. And people were like, man, I wonder what it's going to look like. And the new model. And the Trans Am was like the Smokey and the Bandit car with the big Firebird on the front. Those were the traditional classic Pontiac car, the Smokey and the Bandit. So they wanted to make a car that stood out like the Dukes of Hazzard, the Smokey and the Bandit, but they wanted to make a modernized car, a futuristic car. So they wrote a TV show based on a talking car that was indestructible. And it was called Knight Rider. So they went into the the whole script of we gotta come up with the new, modifications of designing the car and how's it gonna look. People were very skeptical about how the new look was going to be, how was it going to be presented to the public, would it work? It just so happens they had the perfect timing. A lot of writers who were on other television shows, like a lot of comedy writers, their shows were ending, and these guys were like looking for work on NBC. And when Knight Rider came available, and they were doing these talks in the early 80s, like 83, 84, around that time, about actually making it happen, they had all these writers who were good comedic writers. So when they had a treatment for Knight Rider, everybody was like, wow, this is the way to go. Like, we're really liking what we're getting out of this. And these guys are working together who had probably never worked together before. It was gelling, the writing. So when you were presenting somebody with a script, people read it and it was like amazing. Normally you don't get a script that's amazing right off there. You have a great idea, but you don't have the script. So the idea was to make something that was unique and basically just something that was just incredible. Now you got to find out who's going to be Michael Knight. And that's why they wanted to make the car, make sure it was black, make him wear black. You know, he's got to be like the Black Knight, like a Shakespearean type of play. You know, he's a knight, somebody who's doing noble work, the Knight Foundation. So, trying to find out who was going to be Michael Knight became a process because the guy that they had in mind to play Michael Knight, they basically was waiting for him. And that was Marc Singer. I know if I say Marc Singer, most of you probably don't know who I'm talking about. But if I say the V, the television series, then you will remember who Mike Donovan was, the star of the show. He also was Beastmaster. But anyhow, this became a process in which one could deal with that another could not. Waiting for him. Meanwhile, while they're waiting and auditioning other people, there was this actor who was in between work, who used to do work on the network and be on the soaps. Tall, got the long hair that they liked, had the look. And the president of NBC said, I like this guy here. I want him to have this script, Knight Rider, and see if we can keep him on NBC. I don't want to lose this guy. So if this Knight Rider thing don't work out, I could put him on another soap opera. But this guy has a quality that's going to keep women around. So let's keep this guy. And he was hell bent on it. Didn't want him to go. So Brandon Turkoff, or whatever, said, Michael, you know, this is the guy we want to audition for the part. He got the script and fell in love with it immediately as soon as he read it. And he was so excited, he called his dad, like, look, I got an audition for this movie, this television series called Knight Rider. It's a talking car. His dad was like, look, go to New York and see if you can find something in New York. Do not stay out here to do a TV series about a talking car. So he went to read for this thing, and Glenn Lawson, the producer, is not really happy. You know, he's not really happy about, you know, where they are right now. So Glenn Larson is like, I'm not really happy with this, but the studio made the choice of David Hasselhoff. And the studio at NBC said they want Hasselhoff to be Michael Knight. He can do it. So they still wanted Bryan Singer. They wanted Bryan Singer for this V series, and it looked like V was going to continue on. It was a hit. Plus, the studio wasn't going to hold this thing up for much longer for them to wait for Marc Singer. So, boom, right off the gate, they bring in the audition, and you know he did quite well. And they said, well, you know, this could work. He has the look, and let's go and let's start filming Knight Rider. But we need something to be the car, right? What can we choose? Pontiac. Pontiac Company, they were innovative. And when everyone's thinking about Smokey and the Bandit and how that Pontiac and that car was, they wanted that to be like the symbol. So they worked with the Pontiac people, and Pontiac had a new car that was coming out that was sleek and it was defining, and everyone was like, "Oh wow, this is going to be exceptional." So before it came out, they put out the first product testing cars they had. They rolled them out, took the Pontiac logo off, which was that big old Firebird, took that off, put the Trans Am out, and says, "This is it. No Firebird. We want a Trans Am, fast, sleek, indestructible car." Pontiac was excited to do this so much that they sent over the first prototypes of the car. It had never been seen before, and they had all these guys who came up with all these tech ideas with putting monitors in the car, that red light in the front, and they modified it to do that, and just for the television show, to have that light going back and forth. And it became such a huge successful hit that once the show took off, everybody had to have the car. They went in and requested the all black. They didn't even have all. They had them in different colors. People were like losing their minds. They wanted the black car that was a Knight Rider. They wanted all black. They wanted the rims all black. They wanted the one with the light in the front. They were like, we gotta have the light in the front, like on Knight Rider. So on Knight Rider, they used to refer to Kit as a Trans Am. This became such a problem for Pontiac because people were livid they didn't have the light in the front. They felt duped that the light wasn't in the front. They thinking they're getting the Kit car that's on the TV show. People are going into the dealerships. It's like, okay, how much you gonna charge me to put the lights thing on it? I want the fully loaded with the light in the front that moves back and forth. I want that. How much is it to put it on there? I want that light. And people are freaking out about it. And it's like every place they're going. So Pontiac told them, do not mention Trans Am no more on your show. Do not mention that car is a Trans Am on your show. Just take the name Trans Am out of it. We don't. It's giving us way too much of a headache. We can't customly make that in that feature, and they are freaking out about it, and it is causing a stir here. We're gonna just say that's a custom thing that they did. It's not even a Trans Am. So Pontiac disconnected themselves from the Knight Rider series based off that. But they got what they wanted out of it, as that car became one of the most popular selling cars in their history and put them in the mix for a very long time. Now, getting ready to do the filming, they have all the people in place, they have the storyline, they have everything that's set. The cast, the crew, Bonnie with Patricia McPherson, and then you have William Daniel, who played the voice of Kit. Then you had Devin, played by the English-speaking Edward Mulhall, and it made it so prestigious. It didn't seem like a cheesy show. So the Knight 2000 is what the car was called, like the car of the future, the 2000 car. KITT, the Night 2000. And everything had taken its own course. You know, David Hasselhoff's had plastic surgery. Now he's made to be this whole nother new guy, new character, where he goes out and do these missions and he saves people. You know, they don't take lives. They save it and preserve it. And it's got a lot of heart. They had to have stories that meant something. Then, of course, there's the womanizing of Michael Knight and, all the women. They had all these beautiful blondes come in and audition for the show. And the show was going great. Everybody's watching this car hit turbo boost, jump up in the air. And as kids, we love this show. Cars are going like 200 miles an hour, just flying up and down the roads. The show was a big hit, but it's also hard to film. And the first day of shooting, David Hasselhoff is sick as a dog. So if you watch the very first episode of the pilot for the show, he looks bloated, he looks fat, he doesn't look prepared because he was sick the entire day. He was throwing up so many times on the set. It's like he had a stomach flu when they filmed the first pilot. First day of shooting, he was just sick as a dog and was just trying to get through it. And see, the problem is when you're in California and you're a guy who's wearing a black leather jacket and it's like 100 degrees outside and you got the windows up driving, it's a little difficult to film those scenes. So he was sick a lot. And they was like, look, we might have to fire this guy. But they able to work out it, and they saw that the magic of David Hasselhoff started to come out when he made the character Michael Knight. And once that character started to blend in together, and then you started to see the magic right away. That this guy is gold. Now, what was interesting about this as well, that you probably didn't realize, is that the car KITT, the voice we hear for KITT, the guy who did the voice of KITT, rather, that Michael don't hear his voice. When they do the dubbing, and when they go into production to do the dubbing, that's when they add the voice to the car. So they have to have a stand-in for somebody so that Michael could, have his time. And so they'll just have a woman just read the lines and talk to Michael so he can have somebody to go through. Then when they dub the voice in later, then we get the finished product. Like it'll be like for 6 months they never met. Like Michael Knight never met the guy who was the voice of KITT. To like 6 months after shooting the show's a hit. Then they made up and he's like, hey, I'm Michael Knight. I'm the guy who drives KITT. He's like, I'm the voice of KITT. And he's like, well, great them. They just having fun talking to one another. And they just going over the fact, like, do you know that we got a hit show? He's like, yes, I know we got a hit. Now, everybody's so excited about the show. Like, the show is a huge success. It's jumping off. It's jumping off the charts. But now you got a new problem. You've made KITT too powerful. KITT every week had oiled things. He had a grapple hook. He had all these tricks and things that he could do. But now the car is like indestructible. So they kept coming up with ideas to try to stop KITT from being so powerful. You know, he's having some technical thing where his memory is going out or some spark plug thing is going wrong. He's got to be in the shop getting worked on. Something needs to be tweaked. Something damaged his shield protector that he has. Something happened to have to go wrong with Kit so he could seem vulnerable, even though he supposedly is an indestructible car. Now, we look at this whole series play out, and we see they needed something else to stand out to be a uh, what they would call a standard villain for the Knight Rider car. So they came up with another one, a prototype of Kit that didn't quite work out well, called Car. So Kit versus Car became the really big battle. And Car was entirely different from Kit. Kit is to protect life, Car is more self indulging. So Car feels like he's superior, hated Kit, hated Michael Knight, hated everything about him. So they became the perfect villain. The battle between Kit and Car was epic, with the epic standoff conclusion. Now, after season one, Patricia McPherson, who played Bonnie, everybody felt the romantic tension between these two. It was like a James Bond series where Bonnie, she always was the technician who always razzed Michael, and she's kind of like Moneypenny in James Bond movie. You know, there's sexual tension there, but they never go anywhere. But you can tell they both like each other. But she would never give in because she knows he's a womanizer. And that's all it was. And that's how this played out. This was a James Bond type of series in California. And the show was exciting for us because we can care less about any of that stuff. We just wanted to see the Night 2000, see Kit do all this different stuff. We didn't care about the side mission. We didn't care about the story. We didn't care about nothing but that car. But for everybody else, who your parents or something, they were watching it, they actually had a great show. They had a great show to watch. So all I can say is the Night 2000 was a great show, and I just wish they paid Patricia McPherson for season two. And after she wasn't there for season two, I mean, it was a strong fan reaction, and Michael Hasselhoff and Devin, the actor Edward Mohair, was like, we got to bring her back. We do not want to lose our, you know, they brought in Rebecca Holding, the April Curtis, as the chief technician for season two. When they written out Patricia McPherson's character, brought in Rebecca Holden. She played April Curtis in season two, which just didn't work. It didn't work. It's like you destroyed everything all because you didn't want to keep Bonnie on the show and didn't see the value of having Bonnie on there and thought, okay, let's take the cheaper route. So they made her a main character, which is all she wanted to be. She did not want to be a returning character. She wanted to be a main character, which she should. Hey, the thing with Knight Rider is they did so much so soon that you would have thought that this show had about 6, 7 seasons, and it could have went on that long. Knight Rider could have sustained. It's just that I felt like they did too much too soon, and the ideas they had and everything else, it was just like they went too far too fast. I mean, in one season they got Kit basically can fly. He's got wings coming out the side of him. And I'm like, that was cool, but it was like too much too fast. They got him going against this truck Goliath that smashes Kit, took his shield and all this stuff. And they put it on this truck driven by the evil twin of Michael Knight. So overall, this show is definitely one you should check out if you hadn't seen it. And that is the truth behind the show, man. When the show ended, they did come back and do a mini series. They tried to relaunch the Knight Rider series. They did a mini movie called the Knight Rider 2000, where David Hasselhoff came in and played the role. And everyone thought, like, man, this is gonna be great. And when Knight Rider 2000 came out, uh, it was supposed to come off with a series, but that never got off the ground. And when that never got off the ground, everything else fell apart. You know, and it's new producers. When new producers are involved in something and they don't see the value in it, and then they came out with Knight Rider 2010, a whole nother made-for-TV action-packed series, and that was just I don't know what that was. I believe me, I am as baffled by that series as anybody in the world. It was like a Mad Max Knight Rider series, and I'm like, is this related to Knight Rider? But I mean, Knight Rider is synonymous with everything. That beat has been taken and been used in movies, music. That soundtrack is forever. That they have sampled that. They've sampled everything, man, from Knight Rider. And it is in popular demand still to this day in syndication. It was so popular that they've had imitations to try to imitate Knight Rider. They had Street Hawk, which was Knight Rider motorcycle, Airwolf, Knight Rider helicopter, Automan, a guy who transforms into a car, Blue Thunder, Viper. I mean, they come out with all of these different Knight Riders. Automan was crazy. This guy could transform into a car and just go like run like Knight Rider. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Airwolf, the Knight Rider helicopter, Street Hawk, the Knight Rider motorcycle. Yeah. So that shows you the impact of what a vehicle can do for a television series. So anyway, don't forget to hit the Cash App up. My name is Carcino on the Cash App. Don't forget you can support the page by clicking the donate button in the description box. And definitely, and I do mean definitely, don't forget to subscribe and definitely hit one of those buttons, including the playlist for the rest of the television series. I'm out.